Tonight, the cloth mask controversy. Doctors and nurses fighting the coronavirus pandemic in the Ashanti region protest the introduction of cloth face masks to be distributed to frontline workers by the state.
And I just finished a 5-hour surgery. If you have that one, I'm sure by the time you are done with it, you'll be sick yourself, because you see, exchange of oxygen is so difficult. So you may be taking in the carbon dioxide you are breathing.
We have details of a joint letter from the Ghana Medical Association and the Ghana Registered Nurses and Midwives Association registering the objection to the masks they say won't protect them. Top story is brought to you by Bond Savings and Loans. Your success, our passion. Gasam, the nation builder. Vodafone, the future is exciting. Ready? I am Ernest Manu. The Ghana Medical Association in the Ashanti region has raised opposition to a plan to introduce cloth face masks for clinical duties at the Komfo-Anokye Teaching Hospital and other facilities. The GMA and the Ghana Registered Nurses and Midwives Association have issued a joint letter to the management of the hospital indicating they are unable to use the masks that they say will endanger their lives. We'll hear from the Food and Drugs Authority in a bit, but first, my colleague Erastus Asaridonko has been studying the letter from the two associations and has come through with this report.
Demand for good quality personal protective equipment for health workers has soared with the emergence of COVID-19. Many frontliners have been exposed to risk of infection, with 20 of them having tested positive to the virus so far in the region. A letter dated 24th April 2020 by the Trauma and Orthopedic Directorate notified all clinical teams of availability of cloth masks, particularly for staff at low-risk COVID-19 areas of work. The announcement has been met with stiff resistance from the front of the various health staff associations. A written response dated 22nd May 2020 by the Ghana Registered Nurses and Midwives Association registers their disagreement to the use of cloth masks for clinical duties. Leaders demanded scientific evidence of effectiveness of cloth masks in preventing infections in such environment. Dr. Pakwesi Bedu is regional president of the Ghana Medical Association.
You see, we will all prefer the N95 with the goggles, screen, and all that. But if it's not available, the least we will demand, or we are asking for, is this surgical mask. This is not even foolproof. Some research will tell you viruses can even pass through this. And what's more of the cloth mask? So they should make sure they protect their workforce.
Hospital management will not immediately comment, but close sources say adoption of the cloth masks is backed by authorization by the Food and Drugs Authority. Dr. Pakwesi Bedu, however, insists such approval is not enough.
The list. But it's not just enough saying FDA has approved it. Mind you, use the cloth mask, the white ones that are being given the hospitals. Use it and see whether it will be easy breathing through this. And I just finished a 5-hour surgery. If you have that one, I'm sure by the time you are done with it, you'll be sick yourself, because you see, exchange of oxygen is so difficult. So you may be taking in the carbon dioxide you are breathing.
A 2015 randomized trial of cloth and medical masks for healthcare workers by physicians at Kirby Institute at the University of New South Wales found higher rates of infection in cloth masks. Reporting for Joy News, Erastus Asaridonko, Kumasi.
Let's go into the front lines now and speak to the Ashanti Regional Chairman of the GMA, Dr. Pakwesi Bedu. Doc, thank you very much for your time here on Top Story. You and your team in the Ashanti region are on the front line. You're doing a good job on this, but what does this face mask you say won't protect you? Can you describe it to us, the look and feel of it?
Yes, good evening and good evening to your listeners. Also, good evening to all the healthcare workers. You realize that the doctors, nurses, pharmacists, cleaners, everybody, or in general healthcare workers, we've been given this cloth mask, and they tell you it's a 3-layered cloth mask made up of cloth, that's calico, stave, calico. And they go ahead to describe that the calico is made from cotton, and the cotton was selected because of its size, and the calico is supposed to be a sieve, thereby, sieving particles and all that. And the same letter or memo indicates that they sprayed alcohol on it, and then they tested on the other side, and they tested with bacteria and everything to see if they can cultivate the bacteria, indicating the absence of their ability to culture the bacteria means it's safe. But you see, previously, before the advent of the COVID-19, yes, we were using cloth mask and everything because that was to prevent fluids, blood and everything from you or from the patient when you are tending to them. But then we live in this new era. It's a virus, and a virus is way bigger than a bacteria. And if you've seen this bacteria, you see, we appreciate all that management of the various health facilities are doing, but you should. We live in a scientific world where everything is evidence-based. And that's rightly.
Dr. Bedu, just a minute. You said that before COVID-19 you were using these cloth masks. Is that what you're saying?
Yes. You see, in some situations, it's been being used, and that necessitated the need for these investigations. And there's been several research into which indicates or indicated, and you read one of them. There's been several of them that cloth masks do not, even before the advent of this COVID-19, do not protect one from either bacteria or viral infections. And you read one. And indeed, even the African Center for Disease Control and Prevention, their own recommendation is that these cloth masks should not be used by clinicians. My emphasis is on clinicians, not every worker in the hospital. You see, when you come to every hospital, you realize that we have the clinical staff and the non-clinical staff. The non-clinical staff may be in the offices or wherever they work. They are not in direct contact with patients, so they don't see them day to day. So the risk of infection and everything to them is minimal. Such workers can use the cloth mask. But if you are in the outpatient department, if you are on the ward taking care of patients, if you are in the operating room having surgery, the evidence available, and you read some, you can find them all over, and these are credible evidence, speaks against the use of these cloth masks in the clinical setting. And if you've seen what we have, or this one, it's so uncomfortable. You see, go down, talk to nurses, talk to doctors. It's so difficult breathing even through it. And probably they are basing it on the fact that you have difficulty breathing through it means virus or bacteria cannot penetrate it. It's so uncomfortable. And as we said, we live in an evidence-based era. They said the FDA has approved of it. And all that we are asking is the evidence. What was the methodology, sample size? What was done?
Dr. Bedu, you are questioning the FDA's work on this cloth mask that they have done, because this went through rigorous processes and very soon will be joined by the FDA. But you're saying you do not trust the work done by the FDA?
No, you see, I have not seen any work done by the FDA. I've not scrutinized, or none of us has scrutinized the work they've done, subjected to scientific analysis to come to that conclusion. We don't even know what was done. All you will see or you hear is FDA approved. And as a doctor and a scientist, you don't just accept what somebody tells you. We've been taught right from school that when you are dealing with something, you have to interrogate it as a history. You have to examine it. And then afterwards, you investigate this, and then you arrive at a conclusion. If any of these ingredients is missing, then it becomes difficult. So it's just like taking care of somebody. You cannot just look at the face of the person and say the person has COVID-19 or has this without.
But Dr. Bedu, with due respect, you have doctors also at the Ghana Health Service. They are equally qualified people at the FDA. Recently, the WHO upgraded the status of the FDA as a high-ranking testing agency, and so it is quite surprising that you still want to satisfy yourself before using these marks.
You see, as I said, the name of the game is like evidence. You see, we should see the evidence. And worldwide, you go anywhere in the world, they are recommended. Okay, as I said previously, we wouldn't mind using just any mask. But we live in an era where we have the COVID-19. And you read the nurses' report. We have doctors having gotten infected. We have nurses, midwives, pharmacists, administrators, all manner of health personnel getting infected with it. They use these ones. So we are saying that, look, there comes a time where if you are a healthcare worker, I mean a clinical staff, you should be given what we know. They are recommended masks. But if FDA, as you said, they will come. If they can show us the evidence,
and we'll get to that, Dr. Bedu. But earlier you said that the face masks may be good for other duties, but not clinical duties. Have you satisfied? I mean, have you contacted the hospital management to be sure that these masks are being given to you for clinical purposes?
No, you see, I am not just talking about one specific hospital, because a Ghana Medical Association rep or chief servant for the Ghana Medical Association in the region, you interact with doctors from all the hospitals, be it private or public hospitals in the region, and they tell you that's what they are being supplied to be used, whether in theater, on the wards, outpatients, or even outside of the hospital. So those are the evidence I got from my members. Day in, day out, they call you with all those complaints. So it's not about a particular hospital, and it shouldn't be seen as talking about a specific hospital. It's all over, widespread.
Very well, but you officially presented your concerns to the management of the Confanachi Teaching Hospital in that case. What has been the reaction of the management?
There is something I need to correct. Erasmus said the Ghana Medical Association presented the memo. It was presented by the Ghana Registered Nurses and Midwives Association in Confanachi, and then the Confanachi Doctors Association. When you come to, I work in Confanachi, and once I am in the hospital, I am a worker there, and we have the Doctors Association. I am a member and not an executive. So that letter was submitted to management by the executives of the doctors, as the Confanachi Doctors Association and the Nurses and Midwives Association. I just left theater. In fact, because of your interview, I just stopped. I'm here to talk to, I think they presented yesterday also. I'm here to talk to my chairman, who is Dr. Michael Leeds. He's the chairman of the Confanachi Doctors Association. As I said, I tried contacting him. He's also busy operating, so I've not been able to get the response. But then I spoke with other colleagues earlier from the various hospitals, and it's like that is what is available.
And hold the line for me. We've been joined on the phone lines by the General Secretary of the Nurses and Midwifery Council, Dr. David Tinkranchum. Thank you very much for your time here on Top Story. Now, we are already hearing on the ground that your members are threatening to lay down their tools. Can you confirm that?
Good evening, Ernest, and good evening to your listeners and my colleagues on the other side. Come again with your question.
So I was finding out from you. I understand that your members are preparing to lay down their tools if this issue is not addressed. Is that the situation on the ground?
Well, not exactly. What I know is that we have raised various concerns with respect to the management of COVID-19 and how hospital management are handling issues to do with PPE. And but I can confirm that we have not made any determination as far as laying down of our team is concerned.
Now, have you reached out to the Ghana Health Service on this specific issue of the cloth face mask, which you say won't protect you or give you the protection you need in your line of duty?
Well, one of our, if you like, districts in Kompanochi, specifically Kompanochi Teaching Hospital, actually sent a notice to us that in Kompanochi Teaching Hospital, it appears as if there's going to be a policy of the usage of a cloth mask for clinical practice, which we thought was inappropriate. But quite apart from that, and going straight to your question, yes, we have not made any official communication to Ghana Health Service, but we believe that they know what is the right thing to do. Cloth mask, is not.
Mr. Chum, I'm sorry. In this instant, you don't just believe. You have to take steps to make this official and get a response to the issue.
Yeah, what I'm saying is that clinically, the usage of cloth mask by hospital workers is not appropriate. It's not recommended. WHO does not recommend the use of cloth mask as far as clinicians are concerned. Yes, support staff, as was alluded to by the GMA rep. Support staff, accountants, the rest of them can use it. But clinical practice, clinicians cannot use cloth mask because there isn't anything of evidential value to attest to the fact that cloth mask is good enough to be used. And there are studies, in literature where a randomized controlled trial was done, and cloth mask was found not to be appropriate to be used by a clinician.
Hold the line for me, sir. We've been joined also on the phone by the FDA because you've raised issues with quality on this face masks that have been given to you for distribution to your members. We're joined on the phone by Joseph Yao Benny. He's the head of Medical Devices Department at the Food and Drugs Authority. Thank you very much for your time here on Top Story. The doctors and nurses are not satisfied with the quality of these masks that you have certified. It appears that the health workers say this may not give them the protection they need. How do you respond to that?
Thank you for the opportunity. When we say we are not satisfied with the quality, what are the issues that we are talking about? Have we found any defects with the approved nose masks for the local nose masks? I don't know if anybody has evidence to show that there are quality defects with the ones that have been approved by the FDA.
Dr. Baidu, who is the GMA president for the Ashanti region, for instance, says you have not demonstrated the steps by which you arrived at this conclusion that these masks are good enough to give them protection. Again, he says that over the period it is known that face masks do not provide enough protection as far as viruses are concerned. You can't deal with it when you're dealing with bacteria, but virus is a different situation altogether.
When we talk of the fact that we've not demonstrated it, I don't again have a little challenge because demonstration of quality that will go through to approve a product
Dr. Bedu, you're on the line. If you can just hold on, Mr. Benny, for me. Dr. Bedu is on the line. Doc, we have the FDA on the line. If you can put your issues to them directly.
Yes, thank you. The line dropped, but thank God I am back on it. And all that we are asking, and I'm glad I'm not alone, my colleague from the Nurses and Midwifery Council is there. Can they give us what was done, the test methodology or conclusive sample size, so that we interrogate it? Because you see, I wish to invite one of you to any of the hospitals, you join us at surgery, and after an hour or two into a 5-hour surgery, you will appreciate what we are talking about. Come to the various wards. You send your reps, either the SDA can send his reps or multimedia can send his reps to the various hospitals, not just in the Ashanti region. I think this one is being used nationwide. They should send their reps there, work with the health workers, be it the lab scientists, the nurses, or the doctors. Wear these gloves, sit with them for just an hour or two. And
Mr. Benny, I think that the question is, are these marks fit for clinical purposes? When you certify the marks, did you consider clinical activities as far as COVID-19 is concerned?
In registering a nose mask, there are standards and there are specifications for them. There are the medical nose masks, and we have the N95 nose masks. They all have specifications. The local nose masks comes with specifications, and the specifications are the same as the ones that we have with the N95 with the surgical nose mask. If anybody wants us to come to the hospital and see what is happening, the same local nose mask is what we are using in our offices at FDA. The same one that we have approved. So I sit in my office for the number of hours that I sit here, I wear that same nose mask. When we go to the lab and we are doing the evaluation for the nose mask, the same specifications, what is required of N95, what is required of the surgical nose mask, are the same things that we took the local nose mask to. And so we will also throw a challenge to anyone who wants to come and see what we also do in the lab. The steps that we take, there are three main things that you look at. You are looking at the dimensions, you are looking at porosity, you are looking at the ability of the nose mask to prevent liquids from traveling through to the person. And these are the three main things that you look out for in any of those nose masks. And that is exactly what we do for the local nose mask.
And so there's no possibility of an infection when you're using these masks, especially for your surgeries and in the theaters?
Come again?
So there's no possible infection. You're not likely to be infected by any virus if you're using these masks in the theaters.
The virus will get you through a pore or pores that you have on your nose mask. So if these pore sizes have been determined to be such that no virus or bacteria can pass through the N95, and we are seeing that the same pore sizes have been determined for the local nose mask, and therefore those viruses cannot pass through. I don't see the challenge that we have here. Look, if you want to feel safe, we understand that you must be safe by believing that what you are using is safe, is able to protect you. And that's what we are saying, that if anybody wants us to demonstrate it physically in the lab, it is available. You can look at it. But we are telling Ghanaians that as a regulator, we've taken these local nose masks through the same procedures that we have taken the surgical nose masks and the N95. And we will not put it out there for Ghanaians that use this when we are not sure that it will protect you. The surgical nose mask, the N95, the local nose mask that we have evaluated. We are telling Ghanaians that we've taken all of them through the same procedures. And therefore, we want to assure Ghanaians that we will not put anybody's life at risk when we are not sure of what we are saying. So we've done that.
Mr. Benny, thank you for your time here on Top Story. We still have Dr. Bedu on the line. Doc, there you have it, the assurance from the Food and Drugs Authority, which had its status upgraded recently by the WHO, assuring you that these masks are safe for use. Are you satisfied with this?
Ernest, I think I wish to ask him if these are the same masks that they are using at the COVID treatment centers. If they are, that's all right. If they are not, can anybody at the FDA wear that mask, particular mask?
What masks do you think are being used at the treatment centers? Which ones are being used?
They use the standard N95 mask. You can cross-check. They use the standard N95 mask.
Mr. Ben, is that the case? That we only have standard N95 masks at the treatment centers?
I'm not able to tell what those masks are used at those centers because I've never been there and I...
Well, that is fair.
Hear his response.
He's unable to tell us, Dr. Bedu. He's unable to tell us because he's never been there. But your suspicion or what you know is that they are using N95 and you think that is what must be distributed to health workers.
No, you see, Ernest, World Health Organization, the CDC of Africa, that's when I say CDC is the Center for Disease Control and Prevention of the United States of Africa. I mean, we have the various CDCs, and they have made recommendations. Yes, you see, we appreciate that the demand for surgical masks for N95 has gone up. It placed so much stress on us. We of the Ghana Medical Association recently took delivery of some PPEs that were donated by Vodafone. We donated them to various hospitals. You see, and PPEs, as you know, are not stationary things. You bring it today, by tomorrow or so, it's being used up. So there's so much stress. All that we are asking for is, you see, give us the standard that is needed at the COVID center. And you see, the patient coming to you, healthcare workers who are in the clinics, the wards, theaters, are most at risk. You take the statistics of...
Dr. Bedu, we are running out of time on this. I just want to find out from you, how soon are you expecting to have the N95 face masks delivered to you? How soon?
Oh, no, you see, we have been on our own, the Ghana Medical Association on our own have presented some to our members in the various, at least in my division and some divisions, and we keep getting it from donors and all that. But then, I don't know how soon we can get it, I mean, Ministry of Health, Ghana Health Service. But on behalf of healthcare workers, all that we are saying is we are ready to go the long haul, we are ready to join the fight. We are at the forefront of this fight. The least we ask for is protection for our members. To get it, we've had far too many healthcare workers getting the COVID with its attendance, stigmatization, and problems. We think the time has come. Give us the right things, and we will deliver.
Dr. Pakwesi Bedu is the Ashanti Regional Chairman of the GMA. Thank you very much for your time. Do you still have David Chumesi on the line?
David,
yes, sir. Your very final words on this. Are you willing to engage the Ghana Health Service, for instance, so we can have this issue addressed immediately?
Certainly. I mean, we have always collaborated with them, and we will continue to do that. But we don't begrudge what we call Food and Drug Board at all. We are not here to disprove whatever they think is appropriate or can be used by Ghanaians. But we are service providers, we are clinicians, and we stand by WHO and African CDC standards. We are not going to go down on that standard because as far as evidence is concerned, okay, a study that was conducted and published in the British Medical Journal, it tells us that cloth mask is not appropriate for clinical use. So they can recommend that for Ghanaians to use it on the street, in cars and the rest of it. But those of us in hospitals are going to go by the approved standards of WHO and, if you like, African Union or African CDC.
Thank you very much for your time. That's David Chum Tinkran. He is General Secretary of the Ghana Registered Nurses and Midwives Association. That's it for Top Story, brought to you by Bond, your savings and loans. Your success, our passion. Vodafone, the future is exciting, ready. And GASM, the nation builder. I'm Ernest Manu. Ghana Connect is up next with Evans Mensah. Hello, Evans.
Well, Ernest, is a big, I guess, it's been a big week when it comes to the voters register. Now we know a timeline has been given. Ending of June to the ending of July is going to be the period for the new voters register compilation. The question really is, in the midst of COVID-19, are you ready to queue to get a new voters register, an ID card, I guess, to vote? Is a question we are asking tonight. I mean, the conversation that was on the morning show gave us a sense of that.
Of
I mean,
how exactly
people are thinking it's really divided, but we're doing a poll to try and get a sense of where you stand on that question tonight, and we're going to have a conversation about it. The truth is, other countries have held successful elections. In South Korea, they had a record turnout where they did their parliamentary elections. In Wisconsin, they had a primary there, but they subsequently found that at least 19 people got COVID-19 because of the primaries. So knowing what the EC is putting in place to prevent you from getting COVID-19, right? Will you feel comfortable to queue when the time comes? Will you?
I will.
Okay. I mean, so that's one view there. I'm looking forward to it. Whether I'll queue or not, I haven't made that decision yet. Because I not COVID-19 specifically. I've had a challenge with the queuing because always you have to balance up.
Okay, so hold on. What I'm actually looking forward to is the Ghana card and not the voter ID.
But both come with the same risks.
Exactly.
So
I guess I have to think about this again.
You have to queue. But you need the voter's ID card too. As well to vote, which is you actually need, which is a civic duty, by the way.
It is
to vote.
It is.
Without the voter's ID card, you cannot vote.
It's a tricky one.
It's a tricky one. I mean, so if you are a patriot who wants to vote, you have to get an ID card. And so this is, I guess, this is a time when people's patriotism will be most tested because there's a risk. First, you just have to queue, right? Exactly. Now you're queuing and you're afraid whether you get COVID-19 or not. The EC says they've done enough preparation and will put in place adequate measures to safeguard and protect you from getting it. Whether you believe that is adequate or not is a question we're going to ask tonight. And so we're asking you to join us here on Ghana Connect as we explore that question. Wherever you are across the world, we're going to be connecting to Ghanaians all over who will be sharing with us their thoughts on that question. I'll be giving you details about what the EC says they are going to do to inform your decision. You've heard about it for the last 2 days. Let's have a conversation about it here on Ghana Connect.